Hey everybody, this is a video about my favorite top 10 lines from novels. I have a couple of constraints for this video. Number one, none of these lines can appear on my famous First Lines coffee mug that I got at the New York Public Library 5th Avenue branch. It includes like Fahrenheit 451, It Was a Pleasure to Burn, Call Me Ishmael, I Am an Invisible Man, It Was Love at First Sight. It even has Pension on here, which is awesome. A Screaming Comes Across the Sky. So anyhow, it can't appear on there. It must be a novel. It cannot be a classic. And it cannot go beyond a paragraph. So I hope you enjoy it, and I can't wait for you to share with me your favorite opening lines from literature. Number one is James Salter's Light Years. We dash the black river, its flats smooth as stone. To me, this is pure poetry, and it's a very ambitious and Salter-esque opening sentence. His compressionistic prose reads like poetry very often, and he likes to paint a picture more than narrate. I also like the use of consonants and assonants in here. If we look at the use of A for assonants, we dash the black river, its flats smooth as stone. But then we get consonants with the S's. Dash its flats smooth as stone. I love it. We dash the black river, its flats smooth as stone. Number two is The Jade Cabinet by Ricky Ducournay. Memory, wrote Mr. Beatty, presents us with thoughts of what is past, accompanied with the persuasion that they were once real. I love that. I love anything about memory, which is probably why I so enjoyed Proust's magnum opus. But this is, in one sentence, this is a beautiful statement on memory. Number three, Terra Nostra by Carlos Fuentes. Incredible, the first animal that dreamed of another animal. Monstrous, the first vertebrate that succeeded in standing on 2 feet and thus spread terror among the beasts, still normally and happily crawling close to the ground through the slime of creation. Astounding, the first telephone call, the first boiling water, the first song, the first loincloth. Can you have a better opening paragraph? The first time I read this, it was like I had a bucket of cold ice water I dumped on my head. I was shocked. And I just seized on that paragraph over and over and over before I could go on. Never has so much been packed into one paragraph. Number four, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Does such a thing as the fatal flaw, that showy, dark crack running down the middle of life, exist outside literature? I used to think it didn't. Now I think it does. And I think that mine is this, a morbid longing for the picturesque at all costs. The first time I read this, that last statement, the longing for the picturesque at all costs, that described exactly how I felt in my life, and especially with my writing at the time. This was years and years ago. And I just kept getting rejection slips because there was no story or no really well fleshed out characters. But it was just a lot of, I was told I had a lot of points of departure and a lot of tropes, but nothing more. And I realized that really, in the end, I just longed for something to be picturesque. This also, that opening sentence, also invites us into the story of how she came to deal with her changing conception of the fatal flaw. Number five, Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. And honestly, this entire book is incredibly written. I remember the first time I read it, I couldn't believe that someone could achieve this level of writing and sustain it for upwards of 200 pages. So here's the opening lines. Ships at a distance have every man's wish on board. For some, they come in with the tide. For others, they sail forever on the horizon, never out of sight, never landing until the watcher turns his eyes away in resignation, his dreams mocked to death by time. That is the life of men. My goodness. That is searing. Number 6, The Tropic of Capricorn by Henry Miller. I went through a huge Henry Miller phase years ago. I wanted to write just like him, but could never achieve it. Once you have given up the ghost, everything follows with dead certainty, even in the midst of chaos. So there you have it. Henry Miller. Go read it. Number 7, All the Pretty Horses, Cormac McCarthy. This may be sort of a surprising one, but I can't get past it. Ever since the first day that I read this, I believe I was in my brother's apartment in DC when I read this. I picked it up at a Barnes & Noble in Georgetown. But I read this, and that must have been easily 15 years ago, and I cannot get it out of my head. The candle flame and the image of the candle flame caught in the pier glass, twisted and righted when he entered the hall, and again when he shut the door. It's just so cinematic, so simple, but yet so cinematic, and you know, he seizes on such a minor detail to kick this thing off. I love it, and I cannot get that sentence out of my head. Number 8, or perhaps I should say numéro 8, Albert Camus' L'Étranger. This is my French edition, folio paperback. Whoops, the French like to do theirs like that. This is one of the greatest opening lines that highlight the movement of absurdism. Aujourd'hui, maman est morte. Ou peut-être hier, je ne sais pas. Or, today, mom is dead. Or, today, my mom is dead. Or, perhaps yesterday, I don't know. This is exactly what Camus was getting at in this book. You just don't, sort of an Epicureanism or Stoicism, where you just don't attach yourself to things in this life, and you know, you just live, and you realize that life's absurd, and you just don't try to find too much meaning in it. But that opening line where his mom is dead and he doesn't even know if it was yesterday or today, and it's not because he's confused, it's just because he doesn't really care. He's just living. Number 9, The Floating Opera by the great John Barth. I love Barth's work. He's so funny. I want to read like the entire opening chapter of this. This is his first novel, The Floating Opera, and he starts it off with a chapter entitled Tuning My Piano, which perfectly accords with the fact that he's basically just trying to get the story started. To someone like myself, whose literary activities have been confined since 1920, mainly to legal briefs and inquiry writing, the hardest thing about the task at hand, viz. The explanation of a day in 1937 when I changed my mind, is getting into it. I love it. I mean, it's meta, it's very self-aware, and it's very ironic. He's telling you that he's not sure how to even get this thing off the ground, yet by telling you that he is getting it off the ground. And in the end, what he's doing is he's tuning the piano to play you a song. And finally at number 10, Italo Calvino's If on a Winter's Night. A traveler. I think anybody who's a big time reader loves this opening. You are about to begin reading Italo Calvino's new novel, If on a Winter's Night, a Traveler. Relax, concentrate, dispel every other thought. Let the world around you fade. Best to close the door. The TV is always on in the next room. Tell the others right away, no, I don't want to watch TV. Raise your voice, they won't hear you otherwise. I'm reading. I don't want to be disturbed. Maybe they haven't heard you with all that racket. Speak louder. Yell, "I'm beginning to read Italo Calvino's new novel." Or if you prefer, don't say anything. Just hope they'll leave you alone. How great is that? Every reader can relate to that situation. So there you have it. My 10 favorite openings. Let me hear about yours.